In an ancient realm carved by time and trials, three mighty kingdoms of dogs stood tall. They ruled lands of ice, sun, and shadow, the Ironfang of the mountains, the Goldpaw of the plains, and the Greenwhistle of the wildwood. To the south, where golden grass rolled for miles beneath a burning sky, the Goldpaw kingdom reigned. Their sleek hounds ran as swift as wind over wheat, their blades dancing in the sun. Traders sang in the markets while nobles dined in stone halls. In the dense emerald canopy of the west, Greenwhistle thrived. Silent forest guardians, beagles, collies, terriers blended with the trees, stalking intruders like shadows. They spoke little, but their eyes missed nothing. High in the frozen north, among jagged cliffs and snow-dusted stone, the huskies of Ironfang lived with honor and discipline. Their soldiers, gladiators wrapped in frost-colored armor, trained in silence beneath the howl of the wind. Each kingdom saw itself as the rightful heir to the realm's legacy. Old rivalries festered beneath gilded crowns, and though the enemy had not yet come, the walls grew taller, the borders colder, and the hearts of kings more distant. When rumors of shadowed movement and creeping danger reached their ears, no envoy was sent. No hand was offered, for in a world ruled by distrust, even truth was met with silence. From the depths of the forgotten forests, they came, the foxes, sharp of mind and swifter than shadows. Predators born in darkness, raised in cunning. A sinister fox army, clad in dark gladiator-style armor, marches through the forest, eyes glowing with hunger for conquest. They strike the first dog kingdom with strategic precision, burning homes, slashing warriors, and taking captives. The foxes struck first in the deep woods of Greenwhistle, where mist hangs like breath from the trees. They came with flames and steel, burning bridges, toppling watchtowers, and silencing the forest guardians in a single night of crimson rain. The foxes melted back into the dark just as swiftly as they came, leaving only ashes behind. While the kingdoms bickered in silence, the shadows grew bolder beyond their borders. The foxes, clever, ruthless, and organized, had waited, watching the cracks between the fractured lands. They saw not strength in the dog kingdoms, but division. And in division, they found their invitation. The attacked kingdom desperately sends messengers to the other two dog kingdoms for help. One king scoffs, saying, "It is not our battle," and the other simply refuses, thinking their own armies are strong enough. The foxes devastate the kingdom and retreat with stolen supplies and prisoners. Their claws tore through Ironfang's icy borders. Their fangs found the throats of sleeping guards. The first kingdom fell not from lack of strength, but from standing alone. In the golden fields, the second attack came at dawn. The fox army descended like a plague, fast, coordinated, merciless. Goldpaw's cavalry, once the pride of the South, was unprepared for the traps and ambushes. Whole regiments vanished in high grass. When their generals called for aid, the only answer was wind. The Doberman warriors, known for their brutal efficiency, hold the line. Clashes of steel ring out, war dogs bark orders, and the battlefield erupts in a dance of death. For a moment, it seems they might push the foxes back, but the tide turns. Foxes use their agility, leaping over shields, striking from the shadows. The battlefield becomes a graveyard of fallen warriors. The Doberman king, watching from his fortress, clenches his fist in rage. The battlefield shook with fury. Swords clashed, shields shattered, arrows blackened the sky, and at the center, glory was forged in blood and brotherhood. Brave soldiers perished with no one to bury them. Mothers wept alone, cities bled, and still, the kings watched, unmoved behind their walls. The foxes descend upon the final kingdom, their siege engines hurling fiery boulders. The dog warriors fight with raw ferocity, their axes cleaving through foxes, but their forces dwindle fast. At the icy edge of the realm, Ironfang stood alone. Their warriors fought valiantly, shoulder to shoulder beneath frozen skies. But even iron breaks when left alone too long. Foxes scaled their cliffs, infiltrated their strongholds, turned loyal outposts into graveyards. Their cries for help echoed down empty passes. No allies came. As the smoke of war thickened and the scent of loss blanketed the land, even the proudest hearts began to tremble. The foxes had done what no dog king could. They had proven how fragile pride could be. For in the face of cunning, it was not strength that saved a kingdom, but unity. The flames of invasion had long gone cold, but their scars remained: blackened earth, crumbled towers, empty beds where warriors once slept. Across all three kingdoms, the silence was heavier than battle. Even the wind, once bold and bracing, now whispered of regret. 3 kingdoms, 3 defeats, 3 chances to choose each other, all lost. The fires of war had faded, but so had the pride of kings. Where once stood rivals, now stood mourners, graves too many, regrets too loud. High on the windswept cliffs, beneath the ancient oak of accord, the kings met, not in armor, but in humility. Words long buried were spoken: forgive, defend, unite. And with those words, the dogs, once divided by land and legacy, bound themselves to a single promise. Across every hill, vale, and valley, horns of unity echoed through the lands. What began as a whisper among kings now surged like a battle cry across every tribe, every breed, every banner. The age of isolation was over. The age of allegiance had begun. From the frost-bitten peaks to the golden savannas and the deep emerald woods, warriors marched, not for conquest, but for brotherhood. For the first time in history, dogs who once eyed each other with suspicion now shared fire, food, and purpose. Huskies of the Ironfang sparred with swift-footed greyhounds from Goldpaw. Forest-born beagles exchanged tactics with the disciplined mastiffs of the north. Swordmasters taught shield-bearers, scouts learned from hunters, each building not just a force, but a family. The forges burned brighter than ever. Old armor was reforged with emblems of unity, no longer bearing tribal sigils, but the mark of the allied paw. Spears were etched with sacred vows, and shields were carved with the names of fallen kin, so none would be forgotten. Throughout the realm, the blacksmiths labored without rest. Ancient forges lit with sacred flame roared to life. Old armors were stripped of colors and crests, reborn under a single emblem, the mark of unity, a golden paw cradled by 3 stars, one for each kingdom. Swords were balanced for new grips, arrows blessed under shared oaths. Even the war drums changed, now echoing in rhythms each army once marched alone, blended, at last, into a shared heartbeat. Day by day, the army transformed. Formations became sharper, war chants stronger. Once disjointed tactics now flowed like rivers into oceans. What was once scattered had become steel. They called it the Dawnbreak Legion, the first unified force of all 3 kingdoms. Not just warriors, but a symbol, a promise, that when the foxes returned, they would find not division, but defiance. Not fear, but fury. Not tribes, but one nation under one banner. Each warrior bore scars, stories, and songs of their people. But now they trained as one. The mighty mastiffs of the south braced, shields alongside the forest's agile terriers. Ironfang's ice-tempered blades clashed in practice with the twin daggers of Greenwhistle assassins. Where once there was doubt, now there was discipline. Where there was pride, now partnership. They did not speak of difference. They forged strength in it. They drilled for dawn to dusk. No longer were tactics hoarded or secrets kept. Masters of the bow taught classes to swordbearers. Mountain dogs known for brute strength studied precision from the forest knife dancers. Battle chants rose in every tongue, barked, growled, howled in harmony. They learned not just how to fight, but how to trust, As the dog kingdoms diligently prepare for the looming threat of invasion and the possibility of war, the fox army, too, is mobilizing its forces in anticipation of the conflict. Tensions rise on both sides, as strategic defenses are reinforced and alliances are solidified in preparation for what may become an all-out battle. The foxes came again, more cunning, more confident, eager to finish what they had started. Their eyes burned with the hunger of conquest. Their banners sliced the wind like claws. But this time, they did not find divided camps or scattered defenses. They found a wall of steel, fur, and fury, and it did not flinch. They returned with fire and steel, with the arrogance of conquerors, but this time they met resistance. The foxes, confident and unsuspecting, marched toward the first dog kingdom again, believing them weak. Suddenly, war horns blow from all directions. Battle-ready dog warriors emerge from hidden positions. The morning sky held its breath. Beneath its islands stood the Dawnbreak Legion. Thousands of warriors forged from 3 once-divided lands, now bound by blood and brotherhood. Their breath steamed in the cold, their armor gleamed in the rising sun, and their paws trembled not with fear, but anticipation. The first scream of battle tore through the field like lightning. Steel met steel, teeth met fang. Spears shattered, shields split. Fox assassins slipped through the ranks, only to be met by ambushes of their own. The dogs had studied, learned, evolved. This was not revenge. This was reckoning. An Ironfang warrior shielded a Goldpaw archer from falling blade. A Greenwhistle scout dragged a wounded mastiff to safety. Across the battlefield, acts of bravery bloomed like wildfire. Spontaneous, selfless, unbreakable. The foxes were fast, but the Legion was faster. Together, they were unstoppable. The foxes expected a fight. What they found was an alliance. The foxes began to waver, their once coordinated movements dissolving into disarray. Their cunning formations, which had long relied on deception and surprise, crumbled beneath the unyielding precision and cohesion of the unified front they now faced. The very traps they had once deployed with ruthless efficiency against the dogs were now reversed, repurposed by their adversaries with devastating effect. Each fallen fox was more than a casualty. It was a resounding declaration echoing across the battlefield. The era of ambush, treachery, and isolated cunning had come to an end. In its place rose a new order, one built on solidarity, strategy, and shared purpose. This was no longer a fragmented struggle for survival. This was the dawn of a new dominion. This was the age of the Allied paw. And at long last, as the echoes of war gave way to the stillness of its final breath, the Fox commander fell, defiant to the end, yet ultimately overcome. He was not brought down by brute force alone, but by the sheer unity of a force greater than any single army, a legion of legends, united in purpose and unyielding in spirit. In the aftermath, a profound silence settled over the battlefield, not the silence of death, but one born of awe and disbelief. The unthinkable had occurred. The dogs emerged triumphant, not because they were the fiercest or the most fearsome, but because they stood shoulder to shoulder, bound by loyalty, trust, and unbreakable resolve. In unity, they found their strength, and in that moment, their victory became legend. Atop the hill, the Ironfang warlord met the Crimson Claw. The old hatred burned in their eyes, but now it was justice that swung the blade. When silence returned, it was not empty. It was earned. It was peace.